Release report by Doctors Without Borders, or MSF, exposes what it calls orchestrated killing at food distribution sites in southern Gaza. Now, the report, based on medical data, patients' testimonies, and first-hand witnessing by MSF staff, reveals that hundreds of starving civilians, including children, have been gunned down or severely wounded while trying to access food at sites run by the so-called Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, otherwise known as GHF. Well, joining me now is our representative from Doctors Without Borders. He's the Medical Activities Manager. From Gaza, we have Brother Muhammad Fadlala on StreamYard as well, and you can watch the interview. Brother Muhammad, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and welcome to Straight Talk on Radio Al Ansar.
Wa alaikum assalam. I'm happy to be here.
Great to have you, Brother Muhammad. Can you tell us what is the situation on the ground at the moment as you see it? I believe you are right there in Gaza. What is the situation on the ground as we speak?
So the situation on the ground, just to introduce a little bit, I'm working at Al Zuwayda Surgical Field Hospital in central Gaza. The situation is more or less how it's been for the last 2 months that I've been here. The hospitals are overcrowded. The injuries keep coming in. Injuries meaning gunshots, explosions, burns, other types of violence. People are still hungry. People are still having trouble getting all the food items they need. I will say, though, in the last week that things have started to breathe a little bit. Now that more trucks are being let in, thankfully, after the entire summer, more or less, that not happening. But the famine, the starvation that's accumulated over more or less 6 months of blockade, that's not going to go away overnight. So we're still swimming upstream, and we're still a little bit underwater in terms of our capacity to manage care and manage patients.
So let's talk about these GHF, food distribution sites. Now, we have seen a lot of it coming through on social media as well, what it represents. And, MSF has described it as death traps, and rightfully so. So what exactly are the teams, witnessing on the ground when it comes to the whole food distribution process that is conducted by the GHF?
Yeah, so obviously, I'm not there personally. My knowledge of it, my accounting of it comes from the patients who come in injured from those sites, their families, our staff, and the stories they tell. And what is described as huge queues with huge numbers of people, up to the thousands. They're kind of caged off, and then aid is dropped in some sort of field. It's a mad, chaotic dash. Everybody trying to grab whatever little they can of the most basic items, flour bags, or even here and there sugar bag, very basic cans of this or that. And then after 10, 15, 20 minutes, they just open fire. Live rounds, guns, even explosions, explosives that are being used on them. And then it's people running for their lives. It's people dying strewn about on those fields. It's injured, trying to be taken away with helpers and people and family members into ambulances. And it's coincided all summer since these GHF sites have been opened up. More or less every time there's a distribution, there's what we call in the medical community is a mass casualty incident, which is overwhelming rush of patients to a certain facility that exceeds its capacity to handle. And this has raised our patient numbers across all the hospitals in Gaza, more or less 20, 30, 40%, for everybody throughout this summer of killing in the GHF.
Unbelievable. So we hear that many of the victims. I mean, it's indiscriminate killing. Many of them are children. Some even as young as 10 years old. So what kind of injuries are the MSF teams treating from these incidents?
I mean, we're seeing everything, war and trauma and violence related. Gunshots to the chest, gunshots to the abdomen, causing destruction in the lungs, causing destruction in the internal organs, liver, the bowel, perforations in the bowel, which people become very, very sick from, injuries in the bladder, injuries in all the organs of the belly, gunshots to the limbs that can cause fractures, open fractures, which are with the bone snaps and the bone is coming out of the skin. We're seeing lops of flesh off of people. So when the bullet goes in and then out, it takes with it a huge part of the flesh. So people are coming in with very, very large wounds that need a lot to heal. Patients are coming in with explosive injuries, shrapnel, burns. These explosions are very hot, so patients come in with large parts of their body burned.
Mm.
So this is what we're seeing.
Unbelievable. So given the fact that we know the medical facilities are greatly constrained in Gaza and have come under repeated attack, how is MSF able to treat these victims that are coming in from all these attacks?
So the first thing I need to stress is we're not working in a vacuum. We're not working alone. We have a network of all of us together, our hospital, the governmental hospitals, all the other NGO hospitals, really trying to collaborate together to try to take this load off of each other. So when there's a mass casualty incident at one of our neighboring hospitals or others, we offload from them and we take some of their patients. We try to exchange supplies with each other to try to make ends meet for all of us. For example, we perform a lot of bone surgeries for fractures and broken bones, and we need certain equipment, external fixators and things to accomplish that. So when we're running very low or when we've run out, we've had to borrow from our neighboring hospitals to treat our patients with them. Similarly, if other patients, other hospitals are needing some equipment, we lend to them. In the meantime, our logistics and operational teams work tirelessly to try to get what few trucks have been let in over the summer of supplies. So we have something. We collaborate with the WHO and UN agencies for supplies as well. But really, that's one of our biggest challenges is how do we supply in our hospital enough to treat the patients that seem to be endless.
Absolutely. So, beyond the immediate casualties, as you mentioned, that are coming in, what are some of the long-term psychological and physical effects on the civilian population? I mean, we just witness these incidents on social media and it's absolutely horrific, but these people are living through it on a daily basis. So what's the psychological and physical effects on civilians, especially children and those that survive these attacks?
Yeah, so when you get to the hospital with some of these grave injuries, surviving the attack is only the first step in an incredibly, incredibly long road ahead. We have an exorbitant number of patients who have now had amputations of limbs. That's going to change the rest of their life. That's going to change the way they engage the world. There's a generation now of people who need reconstructive surgeries, prosthetics. There's patients who, in order to save their life, we've needed to cut large parts of their bowel out. These people are going to have difficulty having normal diets for the rest of their life, and they're going to have to adjust the way they eat. People who have needed to have had parts of their lungs destroyed. These are people who are going to have lifetime adjustments, and everything is compounded when it's children. They presumably have many, many more years of this challenging way of living. Not to mention how scarce all the prosthetic biomedical equipment is right now. Patients are being discharged without wheelchairs when they aren't able to bear weight on either of their legs for a certain amount of time so their bones can heal. How their families are going to manage maneuvering them in the 6, 8, 10 weeks that they need, it's very difficult. We don't have enough crutches to give people. People are going to have to go home without crutches without being able to put weight on their legs. So that's going to make it harder for their whole family to take care of them. Moving on to the psychological, I mean, it's, we are right now in the middle of the trauma. So it's hard to diagnose right now what will happen. But what I can say is the lasting psychological effects on the entire population of Gaza is going to be extraordinary. Probably everybody is going to have some amount of PTSD. Two days ago, I was working the night shift, and there was a small boy, I think maybe 6 years old, was waiting for his mom, and I was just chatting with him, and he just launched. He was very pleasant, but he launched into the story of the explosion that led to him, coming in with a broken leg, and was telling it in such detail. And it was heartbreaking that this is probably going to be a core memory for this young guy, for the rest of his life. And he can describe it in such detail, where he was in the apartment complex, how he fell off of the balcony. Mom came by shortly after, and she tells me that, this is not the first time. This is the second time this boy went through his building getting blown up. At the very beginning of the war, his building was blown up, and he lost his brother and I think his father at that time. So this scar is gonna stay with this boy forever. And these are the things that's hard, that break your heart.
Certainly does. The emotional scars is going to be there for an entire generation. But as you mentioned, they're still going through it, so there's no time to really assess what the psychological impact is yet, and that only can be determined once this carnage and craziness actually ends. But Dr. Mohammed, what does the MSF most urgently need, in Gaza right now at this moment in order to continue its life-saving work?
What we need, honestly, is to stop getting truckloads of patients every day. We need the killing to stop. We need the violence, and we need people to stop getting shot, stop getting blown up. If we can have 2, 3, 4 weeks where we don't have, we're admitting 20 plus patients a day for traumatic surgeries. And the majority of those patients are from gunshots and explosions. And that's what every hospital is admitting, and many more at other hospitals. We're a field hospital. So what we all need is to stop getting patients. We're a trauma war hospital. We get patients because people get shot at and exploded. So all that needs is you turn off the faucet, and we'll stop getting all these patients. Then we can assess the situation. Then we can start to really heal people. We can go from just saving people and keeping them alive to actually trying to heal people and making them better and well and live in the world.
Absolutely. Given the fact that medical staff have been attacked, journalists have been attacked, the attacks have been indiscriminate, right, over the past nearly 2 years. Do you and the team not, fear for your safety, and how are you all operating, within this greater scheme of things?
MSF has very, all over the world, we're a historic NGO, and we have protocols for security in all different kinds of contexts. And I trust that our operations team are doing their best to ensure our security. Outside of that, I don't think about it. I can't speak for my colleagues, but maybe it's similar for everybody else. But I think we're here, we're working, and in the background we have people who are hopefully keeping us safe. And in the end, it's in God's hands.
Absolutely, certainly. It's I cannot imagine what you people on the ground are going through right now whilst you're witnessing all of this. And we can only hope that, as you rightfully say it, the carnage, the craziness, the mayhem needs to end, and this needs to be done urgently. So do you feel that the international media, they are doing enough to put the spotlight on the scale of what is happening at these food distribution sites in Gaza? I don't want to get into the politics of it, but we had the US representative coming through recently, Witkoff, with the US ambassador saying no, things are perfectly fine. And whenever there's a an incident of shooting, they always say, oh, Hamas operatives were in the area, and they gave these feeble excuses and things like that. But do you believe that the international media and the greater public at large, they are being made aware of what these sites actually are like for Palestinians?
That's a question a bit bigger than I can answer. I'm not following the international media so closely in general. What I can say is that um, the most important testimonies need to be from the ground. There's a lot that can be written by people who aren't here, who don't live here, who have other purposes, but the voices from here will really need to be highlighted, and most importantly, the Palestinian voices. But some important voices that have spoken is that a former American Army person who was part of it, who gave his testimony
Yes,
on what's
yes,
going on
yes.
from the side of the GHF, because I'm not there. I'm here. I
Right.
see the patients. There
Yeah.
was testimony in the Haaretz from the IDF soldiers who also kind of were corroborating the things that we're seeing on our side.
Right.
This is testimony that really can speak. It seems that there has been an effect, from the media, because we have seen trucks being let in and things like that. And when I arrived in June, it was about 5 straight weeks where there was no other option for aid except the GHF. And since that time, there's been trucks let in. So I can't say it's done nothing, but I can say that um, we need to reach the most important voices, the most important
Yeah.
actors, and that's my president in the United States. These are some of the leaders of the powerful countries need to step up and do their job, frankly.
Absolutely. The U.S. Serviceman that you mentioned, he mentioned that heartbreaking story of that little boy, I think by the name of Amir, that had come and received a little bit of aid, and he was just killed mercilessly. And of course, that has gone viral. And I think people now know that sort of spoke to the gravity of the situation as to what is unfolding there. That particular incident, and that's just one of many, as you have witnessed as well.
Yeah, no, I mean it's important. Whatever will get people to pay attention is what needs to be spoken. I mean, let this little boy. It's tragic. We see 100 of that, every day. From similar stories. Patients who, people are under no misconception. They know without a doubt that if they go to these GHF sites, there's a very non-zero possibility that they're going to either die or get maimed, and they are choosing to go because they have to, because who would choose unless you have to. So
Absolutely.
whatever stories are told that can make people care are the stories that need to be told.
Absolutely. Dr. Mohammed Shukran, thank you so much for your time and joining us. May you continue the good work. We all pray for you, for the team, and of course for the people of Gaza, that this craziness and this mayhem ends and the real healing can begin after that. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. That was Dr. Mohammed Fadlallah from Doctors Without Borders. He's the medical activities manager from Gaza. Just imagine us just being there, being in this whole epicenter, trying to make a difference and working in such dire conditions. We must always continue our dua for brothers and sisters in Gaza like this.
اللهم إنك ترى ما نزل بنا في غزة من الأحوال يا ذا الجلال والعزة يا ذا الجبروت والعزة. اللهم أعز أهل غزة، اللهم فرج عن أهل غزة، اللهم فرح أهل غزة، اللهم انصر أهل غزة، اللهم داو جريحهم، اللهم اشف مريضهم، اللهم اقبل شهيدهم، اللهم ارحم ميتهم، اللهم كفف جراحاتهم وبرد آلامهم، اللهم واجعل لهم وللمسلمين فرجا قريبا يا الله. اللهم فرج عنا وعن المسلمين في كل مكان. اللهم انصر الإسلام وأعز المسلمين واخذل الشرك والمشركين ودمر أعداء الدين يا رب العالمين. سبحانك سبحانك ترى الظالمين فتمهلهم حتى يظنوا أنك تهملهم وتبتلي الصالحين في الدنيا حتى يستيئسوا، فإن استيئسوا أتيتهم بنصرهم. اللهم إنك تعلم أن جراحات المسلمين كثيرة وآلامهم كثيرة في كل مكان وفي كل زمان. اللهم فانصرنا على أعدائنا يا الله. اللهم فثبت أقدامنا يا الله.
Straight Talk is proudly sponsored by World of Travel.
As temperatures drop and winter grips the country, the less fortunate in South Africa are preparing for the harsh realities that this season brings. Africa Muslims Agency is distributing blankets, clothing, and other essentials to thousands across the country. Sponsor a winter pack for 320 Rand or a blanket for 160 Rand and spread warmth this winter. Africa Muslims Agency, empowering, educating, inspiring.
Plan your dream holiday with the specialist, World of Travel, as we pride ourselves in offering you the best in Hajj and Umrah. We also offer travel packages to the Middle East, Far East, and many more exotic destinations. Call our professional travel consultants now on 031 20 8877 or view our website www.worldoftravel.co.za. Visit us at 44 Crescent Street as memorable journeys begin with World of Travel by Irshad Malik.
Straight Talk is proudly sponsored by World of Travel.
Siraj Bassa on Radio Al Ansar.
1852 is the time, heading over to 1853, and the time of Isha sets in as well at 1853. So we are officially, well, almost 4 seconds away from the time of Isha, but we'll play the Azan in a minute or two as we wrap up the program for the evening. And today, let's go to the WhatsApp line 0609041056. But that interview it was quite chilling indeed. With Dr. Muhammad right there in Gaza, reporting as to what is happening, and we know the carnage is still ongoing. It's absolutely insane. Every day is a happiness day. Experience the joy in your heart and have faith in life. From Sister Farida Ibrahim from Reservoir Hills. Shukran for that. Sometimes it's not what was said, but how it was said. That's what stays and also stings long after the moment is over. From Brother Noor Muhammad. I see quite a few people that sent me this one. Your history will write that Egypt had the Nile and Gaza died of thirst. History will write that Saudi Arabia and the Emirates had oceans of oil while Gaza had no fuel. Yeah, that goes on, but that is so true. It just feels like the Muslim world, has let the people of Gaza down. And who's championing the cause at the moment? It's the Western world. It's countries like Ireland and Spain and the citizens of the US and UK that are coming out and protesting, and they're allowed to speak freely. But if you go to a Muslim country, I'm not talking about the population, other people on the ground, but they are so suppressed that they cannot do anything or they cannot say anything. And the governments, the leadership, they are really rooting for the other side. That's the shocking thing. They are rooting for the other team, basically. That's a real smack in the face right there. Alhamdulillah for another blessed day as it glorifies into sujood. Never give up. Rise up and try again. Remember, success failed many attempts before its victory. How we were just talking about this. Yeah, that really ties in with what we're talking about today. Never give up, rise up and try again. Remember, success failed many attempts before its victory. May your day be easy, protected, and prosperous. Ameen. Have a